All right, let's jump straight into this explainer and build a rock-solid mental filing cabinet for cost behavior. If you're a BS accountancy student staring down the MAS section of the LECPA, consider this your absolute ultimate cheat code. We aren't just going to sit here memorizing textbook definitions. We're using cognitive chunking to actually hack how your brain processes this stuff. The goal? Making sure this information sticks, not just for tomorrow's quiz, but for the next 2 to 3 years, right up until you're sitting for those board exams.
So, here is our quick roadmap for long-term retention. We're hitting number 1, cracking the cost behavior code. Number 2, the big 3 cost types. Number 3, the relevant range rule. Number 4, tricky costs, step and discretionary. And finally, number 5, some life-saving LCPA hacks and a rapid bullet review. Let's get into it.
Section 1, cracking the cost behavior code. Like I said, we are completely skipping the rote memorization. Instead, we're tapping into pattern recognition to figure out exactly how costs react, because that is how you outsmart the examiner.
To kick things off, let's break down this core definition. Cost behavior basically describes how a specific cost reacts or changes when the amount of your cost driver, your activity level, shifts. Now, understanding the absolute cause and effect behind this, rather than just memorizing the words, is what's going to ensure this knowledge survives until the boards. Honestly, think of it like a trigger. The cost driver is that trigger. It's any factor that causes a change in a cost pool. When the trigger is pulled, when activity goes up or down, how does the cost respond? Does it jump? Does it stay flat? That response, that's the behavior.
Moving on to Section 2, the big 3 cost types. Let's introduce the 3 distinct behavioral personalities of costs. These are literally the foundational building blocks of the entire MAS exam.
There's a classic 2x2 matrix you need to visualize, and it is the ultimate LECPA trap. It compares how costs behave in total versus per unit. Examiners absolutely love to test if you instinctively know that while total variable costs change directly with activity, the variable cost per unit stays completely flat. And conversely, while a fixed cost is constant in total, its per unit cost dances around inversely with volume. You really need to be able to see this matrix in your sleep.
Let's look a little closer at variable costs. Think of direct materials, constant per unit, but the total varies directly with production. For example, let's say a tablet manufacturer uses a $10 camera module in every single device. That camera remains exactly $10 per unit, whether you're making 1 tablet or 1,000. But your total camera cost spikes proportionately as you manufacture more tablets, right? 1 tablet, $10. 1,000 tablets, $10,000. The per unit cost is completely locked in, while the total cost moves directly with your volume.
On the flip side, we've got fixed costs. The classic example, rent. Constant in total, but the unit cost drops as you produce more. Imagine you lease a factory space for $10,000 a month. If you only produce 2,000 tablets, your rent is essentially costing you $5 per tablet. But if you ramp up production to 10,000 tablets, that exact same $10,000 rent check is now spread out, and the unit cost of rent drops to just $1 per tablet. So the crucial takeaway here is that inverse relationship. As your volume goes up, your fixed cost per unit declines.
Then we get to the hybrid, mixed costs. These contain both a fixed base element and a variable usage element. Because of this mix, the cost changes in total, but not proportionately with changes in the activity level. A super relatable example is booking a Lalamove or a Grab delivery. There's a fixed base fare just to book the rider, plus a variable charge per kilometer driven. The base fare is completely fixed. Doesn't matter if the drop-off is literally 1 block away. The distance fee, though, is variable. Put them together and they create a mixed cost behavior that examiners love to make you untangle.
Which brings us to the holy grail formula. Y equals A plus BX. Y is your total cost. A represents your total fixed cost. B is the variable cost per unit. And X is the activity level. This equation is the beating heart of cost estimation. Seriously, every single time you see a mixed cost problem on a test, your brain should automatically try to format it into Y equals A plus BX.
But wait, let's pause for a second. Think about this. Can a factory hold unlimited production without ever needing to rent more space? If your production suddenly triples overnight, can you really just assume your rent will stay exactly the same? Section 3, the relevant range rule. Let's see how this builds critical boundaries around our cost personalities to answer that exact question.
The answer to our rent question lies entirely in the relevant range.
This is the specific band of activity or capacity where our identified linear cost behavior patterns actually hold true. Most companies operate within a normal operating range, say 40 to 80% capacity. Inside that safe zone, we can safely assume fixed costs stay fixed and variable costs stay linear. But outside of that range, if you triple production, you're definitely going to have to rent a second warehouse. Suddenly, your fixed cost jumps. Or your variable costs might shift because you're paying overtime or dealing with machine breakdowns. These rules only apply strictly inside the relevant range.
Similarly, we have to talk about the time period assumption. Cost behavior patterns are only true over a specified period of time. A cost might be totally fixed for a month, but look variable over a span of 5 years. Beyond a specific time frame, costs may behave entirely differently, which adds another boundary to our analysis. You really have to lock in both the volume boundaries and the time boundaries when you're analyzing cost behavior.
All right, Section 4, tricky costs, step, and discretionary. Now we're diving into the granular traps that examiners absolutely love to use to test if you really know your stuff.
So, step costs jump in abrupt increments. They stay fixed over a very short range of activity, then they suddenly jump up to a new level and stay fixed there for another short range. Think of quality control inspectors. Maybe one inspector can handle up to 100 units. The second you make 101 units, you instantly need to hire a second inspector. Boom, a step up in cost. Discretionary costs, on the other hand, are completely controlled by management decisions, things like advertising budgets or employee training programs. They are fixed for the year based on a budget, but they are super easy to change or cut entirely in the short run if the company suddenly needs to save cash.
Building on that, we have to distinguish between committed and discretionary fixed costs. You have to scan board exam word problems for these key words to know if a cost can be quickly slashed or if the company is completely locked into it. Associate committed fixed costs with a heavy padlock, depreciation on factory equipment, property taxes, or a 10-year lease agreement. You can't just undo those. Discretionary fixed costs are like a pair of scissors. They can be easily cut. Public relations, research and development, management bonuses. If a problem asks how management can alter costs to immediately improve short-term cash flow, look straight for the discretionary costs you can snip away.
Section 5, LECPA hacks and bullet review. Okay, let's lock in these neural pathways with some active recall and a rapid-fire review. These are the exact study hacks you need to bring with you on exam day. First up, mastering the high-low method to segregate mixed costs. Step 1, identify the high and low periods. And here is a massive exam hack. Always remember to pick your high and low points based on the activity level, never the cost amount. I'll say it again, look at the volume data first. Once you have those 2 points, step 2 is a simple rise over run calculation. Variable cost per unit is the change in total cost divided by the change in activity. Finally, step 3, you just plug that variable rate back into the total cost equation for either the high or the low point to solve for your total fixed cost. I want you to take a mental screenshot of this list right now. It brilliantly distills everything you need to know about fundamental cost behavior into absolute essentials. If you use spaced repetition and active recall to instantly remember that per unit variable costs are constant and per unit fixed costs are inverse, you will effortlessly dodge half the trick questions they throw at you in the MAS syllabus. Remember the A and B in your cost function, and always respect the boundaries of your relevant range. To wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with a question. If a company's cost function is y equals 100 plus 5x, where x is labor hours, what is the estimated production cost at exactly 0 labor hours? I'll let you chew on that fixed cost intercept for a bit, and think about how recognizing these patterns instantly transforms you into a master of the MAS exam. Keep practicing your active recall, stay laser-focused, and use these mental models to absolutely crush your studies. You've got this.